Hey guys, welcome to the Royal Legal Solutions live stream of our Limited Liability Company presentation. Guys, I am so excited to be here with you today. Of course, if you don't know me, my name is Scott Royal Smith. I'm the owner of Royal Legal Solutions. We're an asset protection law firm that helps people all over the country protect their assets. And today we're going to be talking about the most asked questions that we have with limited liability companies. We're going to be sharing with you guys not just the basic things that you're going to hear everywhere else out there on the internet. We're going to be sharing with you the secrets previously only given to practitioners at that level to be able to give you the insight that you need to know exactly what it is that you need to do, guys. We're going to be talking about how you, as an entrepreneur, as a real estate investor, as a business owner, any type of situation you find yourself in, we are going to give you our system for how do we diagnose and implement an LLC strategy to be able to help you protect yourself, save money on taxes, and most of all, streamline your life so that way you can have very simple operations. Guys, we're not going to be just talking about how to use the LLC structure either. We're going to be talking about everything around the LLC structure as well. That's the banking, the accounting, the taxes, everything that you're going to need to know. And best of all, guys, everything that we're going to be talking about here today is going to be explained in even further detail in our free ebook that we're giving you. That's an over 30,000 word ebook, and we have a 3-page table of contents in there. That's your roadmap for all of the questions that we've gotten over the last 6 years in helping thousands of clients across the country be able to navigate the use of their LLCs. Guys, this is part of our endeavor to be able to make you stronger, more knowledgeable than any other attorneys that you're going to be able to find out there in the world, because with that knowledge, you now have power. And with the power of this recording, as well as the ebook that we're going to give you, you are going to have the tools that you need to be able to help yourself be able to have the best execution and strategies to propel yourself forward. So guys, before we get too far into the weeds here, just want to recap for you here. Of course, my name is Scott Royal Smith. This is my company, Royal Legal Solutions. I'm the principal here. And today we're going to be talking about the limited liability company strategies, and this is your most flexible all-around tool, guys. So if you like what you're hearing here today, and if you haven't joined our Facebook group yet, this is where we're sharing all of our cutting-edge strategies with all of our clients. You can join that at the Tax, Legal, and Asset Protection Secrets Facebook group. That's where you're going to be able to see any of the cutting edge work that we're doing. It's kind of like the place to get the sneak peek. So if you were a part of that group, you've heard about these strategies and the things that we're developing here months ago. So to be on the cutting edge, you need to be a part of the Tax, Legal, and Asset Protection Secrets Facebook group. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump right in. Of course, this is me. I'm Scott Royal Smith. I'm a former litigator. I'm a real estate investor. I'm a business owner, and I'm the founder of Royal Legal Solutions. And I actually founded this company simply because I had to solve a lot of these problems on my own. As I was becoming a real estate investor and owning my own business, I ran into the same problems that you're running into of what to do with company structuring, what to do with taxes, banking, accounting, insurance, the whole gamut from start to finish. And what happened was, as I started to grow my business and grow my portfolio, I had to put these things together. And then eventually, as I was going to share about that in meetup groups and other places, people just started asking me, hey Scott, can you help me set that up for me too? And pretty soon I kind of accidentally started a law firm just based upon the fact of having to figure it out and starting to share about it. And then Royal Legal Solutions was launched just from that. So right now we're a very modern law firm. We help clients in all 50 states. We help real estate investors, we help entrepreneurs, we help business owners. And what we're doing is we're giving people the power of a top flight law firm that are at a very affordable rate, as well as being able to help people that otherwise would never be able to have access to the kinds of support and the kinds of information otherwise, besides the fact that we are able to operate inside of a virtual environment. Right now we have about 20 team members for the full staff. It's a number of paralegals, attorneys, and other support staff that help us keep the ship running here at Royal Legal Solutions. So there's some common myths about LLCs, guys, that I've seen many people believe that they thought were true, and that's really hurt them, right? So let's go through these common myths real quick, just so we can quickly dispel them. The first common myth that we get is that LLCs simply don't work. You might have heard this and say, oh, well, any decent attorney can simply pierce an LLC. And that's true to the extent that it's a LLC that's not been properly formed and maintained. Properly formed and maintained LLCs, formed in the right state with good charging order protection, we'll get into that, are extremely difficult to invalidate or otherwise pierce their corporate veil. So it becomes very important for us to be able to use that LLCs effectively and maintain them correctly, so that way we don't run into any issues with somebody being able to validate the LLC. And this is the difference between an LLC that you form by yourself or on LegalZoom and one formed and maintained by an experienced practitioner. The second thing we see is as a common myth is that the insurance will protect you. People say, hey, I don't need an LLC, I have insurance. What people don't understand about that is that insurance companies are out there as profit-seeking corporation, right? Their job is actually to collect premiums and to deny coverage. And insurance only protects you against some claims called negligence claims or accident claims. They don't protect you against huge amounts of liability that aren't an accident, right? So they might protect you from a little slip and fall on your property, but they won't protect you, say, if there's a mold, or if you get into a bad car accident that exceeds the limits of liability of your car insurance policy, or worse yet, if you're sued because you entered into a contract and somebody decided to sue you based upon your breach of that contract. Another thing that's a common myth is that lawsuits don't happen to honest people. And I'll tell you guys from my litigation experience, I can tell you that honest people get sued all the time. And the worst part about litigation is that once you're sued, everybody just lies about you. Their job is actually to stretch the truth as much as they can to be able to have the lawsuits as their best advantage inside of that lawsuit. The next myth that we see here is that somebody thinks that they can form and maintain the LLC by themselves. Yes, it is technically possible to form and maintain an LLC accurately by yourself. But you have to ask yourself the question here is how diligent are you about those matters? There's a very big difference between what you technically are able to do hypothetically and what you will actually do. When I've done reviews of people's existing structures that they formed and maintained on their own, they've almost always left chinks in the armor, because that's the difference between somebody who's experienced and somebody who's learning it for the very first time. We've done this a few thousand times, so our experience level with making sure that we remove all the chinks in the armor is very, very high. Okay, fifth here is a common myth is that your CPA or advisor can just form the LLC for you. Now, whoever this advisor might be, it could be somebody that you met online, or it could just be your CPA that says, hey, this is so easy, you just file the LLC and there you go. Now, those are the same types of pieces that we see that, well, how experienced is that person in forming, utilizing, advising you on how you actually need to sign documentation on behalf of the LLC? Do you actually need LLC minutes or not? All of the different types of ways that you can invalidate your LLC by doing the banking incorrectly. So you can see here that it's not simply just forming an LLC, it's that you also would need to be able to get, not that you just form an LLC, it's also that you would need to, oh guys, I'm getting a lot of comments here that we're getting a lot of echo, so let me just stop for a second and see if I can fix this echo issue. Test. You want to just do it? Yeah, guys, I guess that's my fault for not seeing the comments on here soon enough. How is this sounding now, guys? Is this coming in clear for you guys? Somebody drop it in the comments if this is coming in clear with no echo. All right, so that sounds better, guys? Okay, cool. All right, so it sounds like we are back here on this. So let's just go ahead and we'll pop back up here. We'll just go through the common myths about the LLCs here. It looked like what was happening is we actually had a mic that was built into the 4K camera here, and that was actually giving us a double sound effect. So thanks for that, guys. Thanks for the feedback on that. Unfortunately, that means we had to turn off the camera, so you won't get to see my big, beautiful face. But okay, so to just recap for you here, real quickly, it's a common myth of like the LLCs of them not working. So it says, hey, the LLCs don't work. Of course, LLCs do work, but they have to be properly formed and maintained and formed in the right state, guys, that have strong charging order protection. And we'll get into that here in a little bit about which states those are going to be. Another myth is about insurance will protect me. Well, insurance will protect you, but it protects you to a limited amount. It only protects you against negligence claims and from accidents. So if you really want good protection, what you actually need is insurance plus an LLC, because there's other types of liability besides accidents, right? There's breach of contract. There's also times when you'll get into like maybe a bad car accident that'll exceed the limits of liability. Exceed the limits of liability for your policy, right? So you need an LLC to step in to protect you in that scenario. And also had here is that lawsuits don't protect you, don't happen to honest people. So in that scenario, lawsuits actually do happen to honest people. That happens all the time to honest people. And the reason that this happens to honest people is because it's not about how honest you are. It's about what happens inside of a lawsuit. When somebody wants to sue you, the first thing they do is start to lie about you. And they'll paint everything in the worst possible light it possibly can be. So being honest really isn't an offense to lawsuits. Another myth is that you can form and maintain the LLC by yourself. Now this doesn't work because most always you're busy doing other things, right? And so when you can form and maintain the LLC, it actually takes expertise to be able to make sure those things are done correctly. Now hypothetically, could you do that on your own? Of course. There's nothing that a lawyer can do or any law firm to do that you actually can't do for yourself. The question is how many times have they done it and what's the level of expertise in knowing the system and the process to make sure that this is being done correctly. Emily, to your question here, is this being recorded? It absolutely is being recorded, and we'll be sharing that recording as well. It's also going to be posted onto the YouTube channel here. So getting better at reading these comments. So when we look at the other common myths that we have here with the LLC is that the CPA or advisor can form the LLC for you. Again, this goes back to saying, what is the expertise of the person in actually defending lawsuits using the LLCs? A CPA or another advisor is not somebody that is going to be experienced in how to use the LLC effectively. So I'd be very cautious in relying on any of their input in forming an LLC, maintaining an LLC, because when when it hits the fan, right, who's going to be the one that's going to be using that structure effectively to actually fight off that lawsuit? Guys, we also will have all of this posted inside of the Facebook group too. I just posted the link in there too if you want to join that. That's going to be the best place to get access to the book that's about these LLCs, as well as get access to the recording and other information. So there's a number of things that the LLC can help you do. It can help you start or run any of your businesses. It can help you lease or purchase real estate. It can help you save money on your taxes, and it can help you protect your wealth and assets, and it can preserve a good credit score. This is the ways that we use LLCs to achieve all of these different types of objectives. And it can help you with a laundry list more, but these are just a list of just a few things that it can help you with. Now, LLCs fit into a broader picture that we talk about here at Royal Legal Solutions, and this is what we call our Freedom Temple. The reason we call it a Freedom Temple is because this is our highest level roadmap of how do we actually achieve lasting and enduring financial freedom. And it's part of this comprehensive structure that we have of achieving financial freedom, reclaiming your time, protecting your assets, and building your legacy. And so this map here that we're going to be using, we're going to be highlighting this map to be able to show you exactly where do the LLCs fit pursuant to each different type of strategy you're going to be using the LLCs for. Remember, the LLC is very flexible, so we're going to be using it in a number of different ways as part of our strategy here. This is the most often question that I get here is, how many LLCs do I need? So there's some people out there that don't need LLCs. Those are people that don't have any assets, they're not running a business, they have poor credit, and they're not intending to improve their credit. If that's your case, then you don't actually need any LLCs because you're not in a position to need any additional protection. Now, the people, when you need one LLC is when you start to have, you start to run into the situation where you need to protect your good credit or build your business credit. The reason why is because even operating a business inside of your personal name, and whatever business that may be, even if you don't own anything and somebody sues you, what they can still hurt is your credit score. But we know that your credit score is very important to you because your credit score is your ability to get access to capital, right? And if you don't have access to capital, you're sunk from the business from day one. Another reason that if you're doing any type of business at all, you should have an LLC is because you start to build the history of that LLC. And after a year or 2 years, now that business is going to be able to independently apply for credit, and that increases your ability to get access to capital. So it becomes very important for us. It's an asset, right? Your credit score, your business credit are both assets, and you need an LLC to protect both of those assets. Now, with an LLC and running your business, you can also save money on taxes. This is a little known strategy about using the LLC and filing what's called an S corporation tax election along with your LLC, and you can do that at the end of each year with your tax filings. What that allows you to do is save money on your self-employment tax. And you also need an LLC if you're doing any high-risk activity. That's if you're collecting rents, right? So if you're operating as a landlord in any way, if you're signing any contracts, if you're entering into any agreements with anybody, you should always be doing that with an LLC. Rich people only operate through LLCs. They never operate out of their personal name. Why? Because operating their personal name exposes their credit score, and they know that their credit score is an asset, and they don't want to have that exposed. Now, that's for one LLC. Now, who are the people that need two LLCs? Well, with two LLCs, you get the benefits of all the one LLC, plus you want to use it for your soft asset protection. That's going to be protecting your cash, your stocks, any other type of soft assets like that. And then with your two LLCs, you're now going to be separating your soft assets from your operations. So your first LLC that we talked about here, LLC number 1, that's going to be protecting your credit, building your business credit, saving you on taxes, and protecting you from any high risk activities you're doing. Your second LLC is your first asset holding company. That's your first asset holding company to start holding your cash, your stocks, and other assets. Why do we want to do that? Because you personally, just like rich people, should not own any assets in your personal name. All of them should be inside of an LLC. Why? Because it's impossible to make it where you don't have any liability or any risk associated with you. Because let's just say you're driving a car and you get into a car accident that exceeds the limits of liability of your car insurance policy. All of a sudden now they can turn around and sue you for all of your assets. So what you need is that second LLC to hold at least your cash and your stocks, and maybe more LLCs that we'll get into here in a second. But you need those so that way you don't have any assets for them to go after. Let's go ahead and talk about what happens with 3 LLCs. When you have 3 LLCs, you get all the benefits of the 2 LLCs. So you're going to get all of the personal protection, right, with protecting your credit, building your business credit. You're going to get all of the soft asset protection with protecting your cash and your stocks. And with your third LLC, what you're going to do is you're going to start isolating any of your hard assets. So this would be your real estate assets. This would be your sailboat. This would be anything else that can incur liability on its own. And so when you think about that, guys, we're thinking about a piece of real estate, right? Like a piece of real estate somebody can slip and fall on, that it has liability that can occur on its own. We're thinking about things like a boat, right? A boat would be able to crash into somebody and then somebody could sue the owner of that boat. We're also thinking about a car potentially. Anything that you can think of that incurs liability on its own should be isolated inside of its own LLC if you want the top levels of asset protection. So we have a question here in the comments from Lisa. Lisa says, thank you for this webinar. It's great to have you here, Lisa. Thanks for showing up. Says, whenever you get to it, I have a question about the LLCs in other states. I have a DST and an operating California LLC. If I purchase turnkey properties in another state, do I need an open LLC in that state? That's a great question, Lisa. So right now for this presentation, we're just focused on people that are just using the LLC strategies. And what you're talking about here is a blended strategy. It looks like you have a DST. Your DST is functioning as an asset holding company, and then you have an operating company there in California. That's going to be like that first LLC that we just talked about here on this slide. But I can tell you that your asset holding company is going to be the ones that are going to be holding all of those assets inside of your DST. If you're using the type of system that we use here with Royal Legal Solutions with using the DST, and that's a little bit beyond the scope of today's presentation, I would recommend that you reach out to me or your advisor here at Royal Legal Solutions, and we'd be able to walk you through all the considerations around that. That's part of your family office membership, and there's no charge for any of these questions that you have about any of the products or services that we provided for you through that. And so that'd be a great time to reach out to them and get clarity on exactly how that's going to apply to your situation. Great, guys, so let's talk about the first LLC here. This is like your minimum viable protection. This is your MVP, and you can see here that it's inside of the 5 pillars of protection. This is your liability protection. This is your safeguarding your good credit. It's building your business credit. It's saving you on taxes, and it's protecting you from lawsuits. We look at the 2 LLCs. We're looking at liability plus separation, right? So we have the liability from the first LLC, and that's protecting us from there. And the second LLC that you have here, this is your soft asset protection. The reason that we call this separation, guys, because this is separating you from your assets. And that's where it's really important. This is your soft asset protection. This is going to be your cash, your stocks, your syndications, your investments. This is creating layers of separation between you, your operations, which is your first LLC doing your business, and the entity that's actually owning all of your assets. This is a very high level of protection. And if you're doing any type of business at all, this is truly your minimum protection. If you have some assets, some investments, stocks, syndications, investments, bonds, whatever the case may be, a brokerage account, and having any type of business, this is where you would fall into it. Now, for this 3 LLCs, you can see we have liability, separation, and isolation here inside of the Freedom Temple, right? So we have the liability protection from the business. We have the separation of any of the soft assets in your life would go into that second LLC, right? Now we've divorced you from your assets and putting that inside of that LLC there. And now with this third or more LLCs, we're isolating each individual asset that has individual liability associated with it. So let's say you owned a piece of real estate. That would go into your third LLC. If you had 2 pieces of real estate, you would actually have 4 LLCs. 1 for your liability protection, 1 for your separation, and then 2 LLCs, 1 for each of your homes that you would have there. So when we look at the 3 types of protections here, we're talking about the operations, when you protect yourself from your business and vice versa, right? So if you have multiple businesses, you'll have 1 LLC per business. And you want to form that LLC in the state where you're actually doing any of the active business, right? You're going to sign contracts, you're going to hire contractors, and you're going to do all of the other activities where you're interacting with other people that could result in liability. And you're going to do that through that LLC. And you're going to save on taxes by using the S corporation tax selection for your tax savings to help you avoid the self-employment tax. Now looking at your soft assets here, you're going to store your wealth safely and anonymously with your soft assets. Again, you just need 1 LLC to do that. You can form that in Wyoming. We recommend a managed Wyoming LLC to hold your soft assets if you're using the LLC strategy. And it has built-in anonymity in Wyoming to prevent lawsuits before they ever begin, guys, because that's actually one of your best lawsuit protections, is to look like you don't own anything and people can't find out what you own or what companies you own. So being anonymous, incredibly important. You get that just by the nature of forming it in Wyoming and holding your assets there. Third, or the last piece here for the soft assets, is we have a safe place to store cash, stocks, and syndication investments. All of those pieces of cash, stocks, syndication investments, they don't have individual liability. Like somebody can't sue the amount of money that you have in your bank account, right? This is very different from a hard asset like a boat, right, that can wreck into somebody. Hey, Rich, right here, you're saying about please discuss the land trust. We're actually going to have that on the talk for next month. So you're definitely going to want to tune in for next month. We're going to be doing the exact same type of presentation around land trust, solely focused on that. That'll be the great opportunity to be able to get all your questions answered on that. Also, always able to reach out to the Royal Legal Solutions staff if you have any pressing questions on that. We'd be happy to answer those for you. Great, so on hard assets here, guys, this is going to be our third piece here on hard assets. We're going to hold all the assets individually for our maximum security. This is the one LLC per asset, just like talked about, right? If you had one house, it'd be one LLC. If you had two houses, that's two LLCs, one LLC per house. And you're going to form that LLC in the state where the property is located if you're using that LLC strategy. And with this, you can add anonymity to prevent lawsuits before they begin by hiding the ownership of that LLC in whatever state that LLC is formed in. And there's a couple of different ways that we're able to accomplish that. So one reason why you might want to use the LLC strategy here with holding individual assets in those states is that some practitioners believe, hey, it's more predictable to know how that LLC formed in that state is going to be treated by that state. So in here, guys, we're thinking about, hey, well, what happens if I use a Delaware LLC and I use that Delaware LLC and I use it in Texas, right? Well, how will Texas treat that Delaware LLC? Versus saying, well, why don't I just form a Texas LLC to hold that Texas asset? Using LLC strategies, we actually recommend that when you're holding hard assets, you form the LLC in the state where that asset is located for maximum predictability. And this is perfect for protecting valuable assets like real estate, sailboats. I can also protect websites, other things that are like that have individual liability attached with them. That's where we're really thinking hard assets really means can it incur individual liability. Great, okay, so let's talk a little bit about the structure. So who has seen an LLC hub and spoke structure like this before? And Richard, you might see this and say, holy smokes, there we go. That's where the land trust was that I was talking about. And here. We've all seen an LLC structure that's like this before. This is what's called a hub and spoke model for LLC protection. If you're just using LLCs, this is your most traditional form of using an LLC is going to be in this type of model. So let me talk you guys through a little bit how this works. So you can see all the way up here at the top, this is what we call the LLC hub. The formation of this is going to be in Wyoming, and the management of it is a manager-managed LLC. And the reason why that we form it in Wyoming, of course, is because it has that anonymity from being formed just directly in Wyoming for that purpose, and when we're just using a pure LLC structure. Now, this hub and spoke model, the reason why people use it is because it's the most popular, it's the most time tested, it's going to be the most widely used out there in the marketplace of people that are focusing on asset protection. We like it because using this model with the local LLCs to hold the assets and the Wyoming LLC to be the LLC hub, it gives us really strong charging order protections. And we also have in here layered anonymity by using the Wyoming LLC and the land trust here, right? So we can use land trust to create anonymity around the property ownership, and we'll use the LLC hub there in Wyoming to have the entity anonymity. So now we're anonymous at both levels, both at the level of if anybody said, hey, who owns this piece of real estate or who owns this boat, and also saying, well, does XYZ person own any companies? In both scenarios, they wouldn't be able to find out any actionable information there. Another reason, if you can see in here, guys, so we've had all of these as laid out for properties here as if you were doing real estate to hold all of these individual LLCs, and we use the land trust in conjunction in here to bypass the due on sale clause via the St. Germain Act. And again, we're going to be talking a little bit about that more here in the future. Now, I just want to emphasize for you guys that here again, the scope of the presentation here today, we're going to be presenting about series LLCs, we're going to be presenting about land trusts, we're going to be presenting about Delaware statutory trust, we're going to be presenting about C corporations. I'm showing you the bigger map of how all of these things fit together. For the scope of today's conversation, we're just talking about the LLC piece. And if you have really pressing questions that comes into your mind about these, I very strongly encourage you to reach out to us and be able to schedule a time to talk to an advisor, so that way you can get these very pressing questions answered, because they are very, very important questions that I see you guys bringing up here in the comments, that I see Bernardo and everybody bringing up. Yeah, and so one just quick piece to highlight here, guys, is about Some people ask me to say, hey, well, do I need to protect my personal residence, my primary residence inside of an LLC? And my answer to that is always yes. I firmly believe that your best case scenario is to always protect your assets inside of an LLC structure. There are some states that have what's called homestead protections, and with homestead protections, what you're able to do is hold the asset in your personal name, and somebody suing you can't take your property. However, in many situations, those are limited, or you can actually violate your homestead protections unknowingly through different types of activities. So the only way that I, as a practitioner and as your advisor, would be able to say for sure that your asset is going to be protected is if it's inside an LLC, and to be able to work with that. I see D Zilla's commenting here about how do loans and refis work inside the LLC structure. And I'm glad you're going to ask that question, because we're going to be talking about that here in a minute. And I also see Fane asking about, hey, I currently have a business, but I want to amend the name to my personal name and use my current business as a DBA. Is that okay? That's a great question, Fane. That's going to depend upon the circumstances, and I'd recommend that you reach out to an advisor. You're very likely going to be able to do just some minor tweaks to be able to accomplish what it is that you're looking for there. And when you look at the type of management structure that we have here, you'll see that these two different types of entities, one is manager managed and the other one is member managed. When you look at the manager managed LLCs and member managed LLCs, those are technical nuances about what happens inside of the LLC. This is why your CPA or your other advisor might not know of the nuances of what needs to happen at the different levels of LLCs, especially when you start to stack them in this manner. To do it, but you can be an individual and wholly own all the LLCs and still have them be intact as long as you form them in the correct states and form them correctly. So here's what we talked about, guys, with buying the properties, to go back to what Diesel was talking about here and asking about. When you hold assets securely with the hub and smoke model, you can use the LLC hub here, and then you would use each of the individual spokes that we talked about, and you would purchase the property inside of your personal name, and you can use it a conforming loan to be able to do that for your piece of real estate. After you close on that property, you simply deed the property into the land trust, and when you deed the property into the land trust, you create the anonymity and you avoid the due on sale clause. Now, when deeding the property into the land trust, you want to use a warranty deed, because when you use a warranty deed, it actually preserves your title insurance. If you use just a quick claim deed or other types of deeds that don't pass warranty of title, your title insurance actually becomes invalid at that point. Now, they're going to be able to see, if anybody looks into it, said, hey, you used to own this piece of property, right? Because you close on the property in your personal name, and then when we're transferring the property into the land trust, they're then going to see it's owned by a land trust. But we structure this to make it look like a sale that's a true sale to the land trust. And the other part of it too is that if they guessed that you still own the property, they guessed wrong, because you don't own the property anymore. It's actually owned by a trust and subsequently an LLC. And this is how you can get the very best financing rates, with also combining that with the best protection that you can get out there with the anonymity and the protection together. When you need to refinance your property using a hub and spoke model, what you do is you simply refinance it in your personal name or inside of a separate LLC. That's going to depend on whether you're going to be using commercial financing, which would be an LLC, or you're going to be using one of your conforming loans, your first 10 conforming loans, to use the property to refinance the property inside of your personal name. So, but anyway you're going to do it, what you would do is, and what's most common is that you take the property, you deed the property back to your personal name, you execute all the refinancing inside of your personal name so you get the best rates and it's the easiest for underwriting, and then you simply deed the property back into the land trust at that point. And again, we use warranty deeds for all the movements that we do to make sure that we're always preserving the title insurance. It's very cost effective to execute both of these deeds. Most of all the work, if you're a Royal Legal Solutions client, was already done once on the front end. So what we do is we cut you very steep discounts for having to draft new deeds to do any types of these transactions, because we already have the templates from the first time that we did it, right? So that's a way that we leverage our technology to be able to better serve you and better help you make greater returns on your investments. Now, so this is the full map, guys. I know that you guys, this might be overwhelming for you guys to look at, of saying, holy smokes, this is a lot of stuff. And we only talked about a small portion of this here today. You'll see that what we did talk about today is everything that's around here, around the asset holding company. Everything that's around this asset holding company in the bottom right. So that's items like 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Are all of those. You can see that we talked about the Wyoming LLC. We talked about a little bit about how we use agent trusts and land trusts here. The land trust produces the anonymity. The Wyoming LLC has de facto anonymity. You'll see here something that we do that I haven't seen any other practitioners do, but we believe it further protects our clients with associating with an agent trust. And that's to be able to protect you not just from the filing of the entity and people being able to look at the entity directly, but also on any yearly reporting of who owns the Wyoming LLC as part of the public disclosures. We're able to further mask that by using an agent trust at a law firm to further remove that information from the public record to give you a little bit heightened sense of anonymity than you can get really anywhere else that I've been able to find. That's our asset holding company. That's the hub and the spoke. That is the asset holding piece of the hub and the spoke. So that would be to hold all of your individual pieces of property. Now you'll see over here is our operating company. That's on the left-hand side here. The operating company has the traditional LLC, the self-directed IRA, and the solo 401k. Those are what you'd see is typically would be your first LLC. That's your traditional LLC there on the left-hand side. A lot of times we want that traditional LLC structured with a trust because we believe that you should hold everything anonymously, whether it's an operating company or not. Why not own it anonymously? Why give them any piece of information to go off of when they're looking to sue you? And so when you're looking at this traditional LLC, that would be your first LLC that you would get would be the LLC that's here on the left-hand side underneath the bracket of operating company. That's that LLC number 1 that protects your personal credit score, that's building your business credit, that's helping you save on taxes with the S corporation election. And your LLC number 2 is you're going to see on the right-hand side. That's your asset holding company with your Wyoming LLC, and your LLCs 3+ are going to be all of these individual spoke LLCs that you can see underneath your asset holding company. You might know there's a couple other pieces here that we're kind of teasing out to you about things we're going to be talking about here in the future, which is going to be down here at the bottom. What can you do for tax savings with your self-directed IRA and your solo 401k? That's in the bottom left-hand corner there, numbers 11 and 5, about how you can use that to be able to save money on taxes from any of the businesses that you have that are generating income. And I'll tell you guys right now, if you're a real estate investor and you're not using the self-directed IRA and solo 401k, you're going to be losing money on taxes. And there is misinformation out there saying that if you have passive income, you can't channel it into retirement accounts. And while that is technically true, it's lazy, because you actually can. You just have to do it the right way. You have to reclassify the income, and you can do that with having an operating company in place to be able to do that. Also show you guys in here number 3 here, using the living trust. The living trust here is how you have all of your estate planning. This is how you're going to be passing your wealth to your heirs to make sure that the kids are inheriting the assets in the way that you want them to, making sure that you can build a lasting legacy for the people that you care about. You also see part of here is your offshore trust. So if you're over $2 million in net worth, we recommend using an offshore trust in conjunction with your domestic asset holding company. Your offshore trust is basically your doomsday button. It says if the absolute worst case scenario happens, you have an option to be able to eject your assets either partially or wholly offshore outside of the jurisdiction of the United States. And we think that this is a cost-effective measure for anybody that has over $2 million in total net worth. And you can see here at the top, we label it number 1 is your estate plan. These are the things that you need for your durable power of attorney, your healthcare power of attorney, other things that you need to say, hey, I haven't died yet to be able to pass all the assets, but I need documentation in place for people to be able to help me if I'm in the hospital, because if I'm incapacitated in the hospital, how can people help me, pay my mortgages, pay my rent, make other financial decisions for me in a limited capacity to make sure that I'm going to stay protected there. So I see a lot of good questions popping up here about some of these other items that we talked about here, guys. You are going to love tuning in to our future sessions that we have. We're going to be taking deep dives into each and every single one of these areas and revealing to you all the practitioner secrets that we've developed over the last 6 years that we typically only teach to other attorneys and CPAs. We're going to be revealing them all to you guys directly through that. If you have any pressing matters in there, or if it's something you really want an answer to right now, the best thing to do is to jump to the Facebook group. You can see that there's a couple of links here that we've posted to the Facebook group that's actually moderated by our staff. Then we can have through that group or contacting us through our website is the best way to be able to connect with our staff to answer any individual questions that you might have. So we have some frequently asked questions here about LLCs and how do the taxes work. So you won't have any tax return having this hub and spoke model any different than you would for an individual LLC. So you can see there, guys, on that right hand side, right, we have the asset holding company, all the spokes, and the hub at the top. All the income channels up to the hub, and then from the hub it gets paid out to in whatever way that that LLC is set up. So if it's an individual, it's a disregarded entity, there's no additional tax return. If it's a set of partners that are unmarried partners, then you'd have a single partnership return, and you have a set of K1s that you have to file for that, but you only have one tax return you have to file, no matter how many sub LLCs that you might have in the spoke. A lot of people ask me, so how does the banking and accounting work? If with an LLC model like this, you actually need each LLC to have its own bank account and maintain its own accounting records. Now, when you're scaling into a bunch of LLCs, that can actually be laborious and hard to keep track of operationally. And this is why we have other solutions inside of Royal Legal Solutions for people that are scaling. Because once you get at scale, you have to think about how do you streamline operations, and those are going to be the things we talk about using Delaware Statutory Trust, Series LLCs, and other solutions for that. Another question we get is do I use insurance with the land trust? And that's answer that is always yes. I very firmly believe that you should always be using land insurance because insurance is a great tool. It's just it's a great tool, but it's just not sufficient because I just don't trust profit-seeking corporations to have my best interest at heart. And the way that you actually use insurance with the land trust is that you just leave the existing insurance in place for when you bought the property, and then you add the land trust as additional insured. Now, sometimes we run into insurance companies that don't fully understand the application of land trusts, and it's rare that we actually have to be able to get new insurance onto the property and change your insurance provider, but almost always we're going to be able to help you put that together. A lot of people ask me, how much does it cost, Scott, to be able to put together, this whole system? And I tell them, I said, listen, it's a lot like going to a doctor, and I can't really give you a diagnosis until I actually do an examination, right? And that's what I train my team on, to say, listen, this is where we're at. Our first job is to come in, assess where people are at, and give them a diagnosis of, what their objectives are and what does it take to actually meet that objective. So it's not a great answer, but it's usually somewhere between $950 and $10,000, depending upon the scope of assets that you have, right? Depending upon how many pieces of real estate you have, how many boats do you have? Are we just talking about a business here? Are we just talking about protecting the soft assets? Are we talking about just protecting the business? Are we talking about protecting a lot of hard assets as well too? And what does it look like in terms of how you plan on scaling in the future? That can also change what type of strategy is going to be most efficient for you. So the more we can get clarity about where you're at now and where you're going into the future, the more efficient we can say of, here is the solution that's going to be most cost effective for you for your set of goals, right? And that's why it pays to work with professionals, because then you're able to set up one system that's durable, that will last you hopefully for the rest of your life without ever having to redo it. And that's our goal for any of the clients that we help. Now, how long does it take to turn in place? So after you come in, you go through the Facebook group or you go to the website to be able to connect with the staff if that's something you wish to do. It can take around 2 to 6 weeks depending upon the complexity and also the government turnaround times. So Corona has actually not actually affected us too much during this. We've been able to find workarounds for a lot of the complications that other people are suffering under. So we're able to help people within that 2 to 6 week time period to go from naked and in the wind to being fully protected and saving on their taxes. So we have the Facebook group there, guys. If you guys want to get in there and start asking questions, my staff monitors that Facebook group, and we drop in high value content at Facebook group. That's where we have our cutting edge solutions there. Another place, if you guys want to start that process of saying, hey, I am ready to talk to somebody about, what is the number of LLCs do I need, and what are the costs to be able to set this up, and what's the cost, not just to set it up, but what are the costs, ongoing costs, or what kinds of support do I need in the future if I'm going to go this route. If you want that type of detailed, personalized consultation with it, the best way to start that is to go to the royallegalsolutions.com/quiz. You'll take that quiz. And that quiz is going to be able to give us all the information we need to have a valuable conversation with you. So that way you can walk out of that first conversation with feeling like you got a ton of value out of it, and we were really able to give you some insights in there before you even give us $1. And we're happy to do that with you through that process. I'll tell you guys too, a sneak peek on that quiz page. You're also going to see an hour and 40 long minute video that I put together. With that has everything that we know about the tax using the series LLC, using the operating companies, estate planning, etc. It's all in that video. So if you want to get a sneak peek of how all of the parts of the system and that big map that I showed you earlier all work together, the best place to get that is in that hour and 40 minute long video. And you're also going to be able to see there's some other client testimonials and other people that are sharing their experiences about what it's been like to work with that. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this live presentation here today. I'm happy to answer a few questions here as I have a few minutes before I have to go to my next meeting here. So just looking here, Marcella says, I love your team and always there to help. That's awesome, Marcella. That's always great to hear. Matsky says, Indiana's been a major pain and still am not positive my properties are recorded, and it dates back to January. Matsky, the best thing to do there is to contact your representative. What we can do there, if you're a family office member, what we do is we're able to then look at the deed records using our resources like datatree.com to be able to pull the existing property records. We should be able to get that information to you in very short order if you can contact your rep there. So Steven says, thanks for your presentations. While the hub and spoke model is similar, your website articles and consultation with one of your attorneys have stated a Texas series LLC is the right way to hold assets. Yeah, so that's right, Stephen. When we're looking at scalable assets, we believe that this series LLC is going to be a better model to scale around. Yeah, it says that we only use the series LLC. That's right. We only use the series LLC when we're looking to scale the assets. We're introducing here to you guys a hub and spoke model for discussing how LLCs work, because we're not a one-size-fits-all type of solution. We actually have a number of different solutions that we use depending upon what people want to do. Now, there's reasons that people would use individual LLCs over the series LLC that can depend on a number of different factors. We typically find that the series LLC is the most efficient and cost-effective solution for most of the clients that we work with. But I wanted to give you guys here a great resource if you're ever considering using a hub and spoke model of LLCs to know exactly how it works, why you would do it, and then you can learn from the series of presentations doing, well, why do we do what we do? Where does the real grit, rubber meet the road in terms of professional thinking come into understanding what we do here? Kirby says, a nice job, Scott. I have this set up, but great to listen again. It reminds me I need to go get a checkup with your family office benefits. I suggest to those watching. Yeah, Kirby, I hope you get into your family office. Remember, as a family office member, you get up to 2 biannual reviews at no additional cost, where we basically do a forensic analysis of how you're operating, what's going on with your assets to ensure that you're doing it right. And one of the things that a lot of our clients, and I'm sure that Kirby was also enjoying saying, that we don't trust you or any of our clients to actually do the stuff right. That's why we have a family office plan that gives you the ongoing continuity and support. That's why we do these forensic analysis twice a year to make sure you're doing it right, because guys, it's just not enough to set it up. It's not a set it and forget it type of thing. So thank you for that. Thank you, CW, for saying that it's well presented. Thank you, Fane, for saying that you're grateful that you found this group. Thank you, Lisa, for commenting about this. Informative as always. Smooth Chaos says, does the Wyoming LLC have to be registered as a foreign LLC and the state is used? It really depends on what you're using it for. That'd be a great conversation to have with an advisor to see what are you going to be using it for, to be able to see, do you actually have to do a foreign entity registration? Because you don't always. It really depends on what you're using it for. Ken says, Royal Legal Solutions has been very helpful starting a business and a living trust. Thanks, Guy. Yeah, Ken, great for have you here, man. Thanks for joining in with us here today. CW asks is, can you still achieve anonymity if you work with partners? It's possible. It really depends upon the circumstances of what kind of anonymity you're going to be able to achieve. There's practicalities to this stuff too, right? Where you're looking at trying to achieve anonymity if somebody's actually searching pursuant to the public records to decide if you're a good person to sue. There's practicalities of saying, did somebody see you associated with that partner or walk out of that building? There's some levels of anonymity you're not going to be able to achieve. The kind of anonymity that we're looking to achieve is, what do lawyers look at when they're deciding whether they want to sue you or not? And that's where we're hyper focused on. But it sounds like you might have a particular situation in here. I would suggest you actually talk to one of our staff attorneys about that if you're trying to get to even higher levels of anonymity that are more strategic, depending upon your particular business situation. Dell asks, has a Series LLC been proven in court yet? Series LLC presentation is going to be coming up next month. I'm going to be going that in detail about what the strengths of the Series LLC are. There's a lot of myths around the Series LLC. One of them is around saying, is it vulnerable because there aren't any court cases? And I can show you guys some arguments about that, saying, well, while there haven't been any court cases that have proven out the LLC, there's no court cases that would show that the Series LLC would be something that we should be afraid of, and there's a lot of good arguments for that. I'll be getting into that in detail next month. So Eric asks, does the Saint Germain clause apply to multifamily properties? My understanding is that the Saint Germain Act only applies to the single family properties, and that for multifamily properties you wouldn't be able to rely on those same protections. In those scenarios, we'll still use land trusts, just relying on the fact that lenders don't foreclose on performing assets. We've done that for a number of clients over the last 6 years, and we haven't had a problem with any lenders actually foreclosing or taking any action on that, but that's a case-by-case basis. That's awesome, guys. Thank you, Emily, for your compliment here on a great presentations. Fane, we do service clients in all 50 states. We have been doing this for over 6 years now, and primarily since 2017 is when we've expanded into all 50 states. So guys, this has been really great. I really appreciate everybody showing up here today. These are a lot of really great questions. If I didn't get to your question here today, the best thing to do is to log into the Facebook group that we have. Post your question into there and let my staff be able to help you through that Facebook group so you can actually get a feel for what are the types of questions that you have, what are the types of answers we're going to give you, and whether it makes sense for us to get on a phone call and start to talk about, how can we provide you some more of that personalized information that it looks like you're looking for. These are all fantastic questions, guys. Your heads are in the right space for everything that you're asking here. So feel free, and I highly encourage you to go to that Facebook group to be able to answer those questions. We're really happy to help you. Our goal is to be able to set you guys up with a level of knowledge that puts you into the very top tiers of investors, even knowing more than the attorneys and other advisors you might have in your life. If I can help you guys achieve that level of knowledge, that you know more than any of the other attorneys that you're able to speak to, I feel like that I've really done my job really well. And I see Brendan here asking about, is there a thing that we can do here about presentation of best practice for operating once an asset protection structure is set up? Brendan, we don't have that presentation set up yet. We will create that presentation. In the meantime, the best thing to do for that is to become a family office member and have one of our practitioner attorneys give you best practices for your particular business. How you operate, what are the things you need to know how to operate, that's very particular to your business. So you would need to be able to know what that is. Of course, some basic things in there about how you're going to do the banking and the accounting, how do you make payments, how do you sign contracts. Those things are going to be pretty plain and vanilla. Best thing to do for that is to probably post that inside of the Facebook group, guys. If you have any questions that we didn't get answered today, post those inside of the Facebook group so that way we can help you there. Thanks for joining, guys. I'll catch you again here next month. In the meantime, stay safe, and we look forward to being able to answer any questions you have.